What's up? It's Way Up with Angela Yee. I'm Angela Yee, and we have a really special guest, and I know you're going to love this conversation today. Resmaa Menakem is here. First time on Way Up.
Yes, my first time, sis.
You know, but I met you on The Breakfast Club previously, and you also did your book. We did a book club event at my coffee shop at Cup, which I appreciate.
And I'm still drinking the coffee.
Oh, good. I like to hear that. And I remember that event, people just had so many questions. Yeah. You know, people were crying at the event, so I do appreciate you for that. But let's talk about who Resmaa Menakem is. Just for people who are listening, what would you say when somebody's like, oh, what do you do?
Primarily, I am an author. Right now, I've been a clinical social worker, specializing in racialized trauma and violence. I've been doing this work for 35 years.
Yes, you have.
Yeah. And so did a lot of stuff with trauma, and a lot of stuff with couples. So,
now, Resmaa, when you talk about racialized trauma and you've been doing this work for 35 years, what's different now than it was 35 years ago? Because I feel like we have a lot more conversations. I feel like we went from this being something taboo to kind of talk about to it being widely talked about to it again being pushed back on and kind of like, okay, get over it.
Yeah, we really don't have the container created that allows us to really talk about race in the ways that it needs to be talked about. So what happens is that it becomes the flavor of the moment, and then people talk about it, and then once they can't tolerate it anymore, they say, we just need to need to talk about trauma and how trauma shows up in couples and how trauma shows up between black folks and how trauma shows up between people and how trauma shows up in the environment. I mean, you know, one of the things I've been talking about lately, sibling, is this idea that, you know, we're still on the tails of COVID. Like people are walking around here acting like it's normal to be as tired as we are.
Right.
Have you noticed like that fatigue?
People definitely have some long-term COVID effects.
Exactly.
It took me a long time after I had it to be able to breathe properly.
That's it.
And to not be out of breath, like walking down the block and going up the stairs and doing simple things.
Right. And as soon as they said, hey, y'all can take your masks off, everybody was like, okay, it's good. But what you're starting to notice is that, especially in our community, we're starting to come face to face with a lot of the kind of stress responses, right? So we're noticing that we're noticing a lot more depression. We're noticing a lot more anxiety. We're noticing that we can't quite, even if we go on vacation, we still are tired on vacation.
Right.
And that's because what we're dealing with is not just momentary, it's historical. And there's a charge to it. It is intergenerational. It is persistently institutional. And then it's our own personal stuff. And that's the weight of it. That's why we can't blow it off like we used to. That's why the overriding is not doing what it used to do. Like we used to just work ourselves in override and get through it. And that's not covering anymore. And so when I talk about racialized trauma, I'm always trying to get us to understand that it is not about a personal defect in us. It really is about what happens and continues to happen to our people. And we have to create things in communal ways of dealing with those pieces. It's not just an individual thing.
You know, I want to ask you about something that had went viral, right? Taraji was talking about how as Black people, we can run when we laugh. And she talked about how that is something that is also racialized trauma, so to say, because we weren't allowed to laugh. And a lot of people were like, what is she talking about? But then there were some people that were like, no, she's absolutely correct. So can you break that down?
Absolutely. So there is this kind of phrase that I use, is that just the march of time can decontextualize trauma. So what I mean by that is that trauma decontextualized, untended to over time, can in a person can look like personality. Trauma untended to in a family over time can look like family traits. Trauma untended to in a people can look like culture. Right. If something like if me and you cool and we friends and something happens, somebody walks through that door and hurts me badly, right? And then next week you call and check up on me, and I'm saying, sis, I'm good. And then you see me the week after that, and I'm acting strange. You would immediately contextualize. Let me call Maria. Let me call his wife
just last week,
because just last week I saw that happen to him. So we got to get Resmaa some help, right? That's contextualizing it, right? What if you never saw it and I'm acting crazy though?
Right.
Right? Now it looks like my personality. What if my reflexes, like every time you say something, I got more energy than I should have in a particular thing, right? You say one thing and I'm hyped about it. Those are the things that over time look like personality, but are actually trauma responses. I'll give you another one. And we make it part of culture. So I remember my mother on Saturdays cleaning the house like incessantly, and if you didn't get up at 7 o'clock in the morning and help her, and if you were supposed to wash the dishes and you left a spoon in the sink, you getting it right. What we don't realize is that many of our people had become adults early. We had to take on more responsibility early as children.
Right.
So now that the response to that is, oh, this is just how black people do, when it actually might be a response to trauma. It might be a response to the things that happened to us, and then we got organized around it. Now it looks like, oh, that's just who black people are. That's just what we do. Here's another one. Many of us can tell what mood our parents are in. When we were kids, we could tell what mood they were in by their footsteps.
Like, let me mind my business today and get out the way.
You see, that's right. And then what happens is that we get organized around that, and then when we get older, it looks like part of our personality. Or I know what you're thinking already. I know right? And those are the types of things that over time, as they become decontextualized, we just think it's just culture. So Taraji was absolutely right. There are these things that we have to begin to interrogate, not from a place of defectiveness, but from a place of healing and knowing, so we can have more room to work with these pieces.
Right.
This
Once
is
you
not
have
about
context.
that's exactly right. It's not about defect. A lot of times when this stuff happens, we put the defect inside of us instead of what happened and continues to happen to us.
You know, Resmaa, I've read 2 of your books, and now I have to read Monsters in Love, which is a book that you had put out previously, almost 10 years ago.
Yeah, almost 10 years ago.
And then now you've redone it, and we'll get to that in a second. But now you also, just based off of your grandmother's hands, the stories from my grandmother's hands, you have a children's book.
Yes.
All right. Now, what made you decide that it's time to make that into a children's book?
That's a good question. So actually, a lot of black women is what made me.
It's a beautiful, by the way, art in here is beautiful and amazing. When you go through it, and we get to learn some other languages.
That's right.
Too.
That's right. So the thing about the art. Let me just talk about Brother Leroy Campbell. Brother Leroy Campbell is a very famous black artist, and that brother. All of the things in here are not illustrations. These are all paintings.
I feel like we need these hanging in our home.
That's right.
What I look.
That's
These look
right.
like real. Hang this in my house.
He painted those
and pay a ton of money.
That's right. Yeah, he painted all those. That's why it's such the kind of texture of it is so rich. But really, a lot of black women kept asking me when I was going to do something for kids, because they'd like to have something to read to kids.
Right.
A lot of black women read my grandmother's hands. And so whenever I would do talks around the world, people would come and people would be like, it was mostly black women would say, is there something? And I would reject it. I would be like, well, my grandmother's hands are so dense, I don't know how I would do it. Right. And then I just let it be for a while, and then it started to come to me like, okay, maybe I could just do lines of it, and then
it made so much sense when I was reading through it.
Yeah.
To be able to sit there, because that also is a great way to open up conversations.
That's exactly right.
Like just a little bit of it, if you want to just
please,
you go right ahead.
Yes. So the first line in the book says, "My grandmother's hands picked cotton," and then there's a painting of is from my grandmother's hands, who was a very thin woman, but she had thick pads in the middle of her fingers. And that's because at the age of 4, her daddy was a sharecropper. And so when she would pick the cotton at 4, it would rip her hands up, right? And so this particular part of the book, so along with the book, an album download.
We have that here.
Yeah. So there's an album that goes along with the book, and also in the book. So the book actually comes out for sale in September, and people will get a download.
Will they
in
get
the
it
book.
in Florida?
They probably gonna burn it in Florida, but,
Okay,
but they'll get it.
Okay.
They'll get it. So the music actually is what also helps to deepen the words, because in each line has a whole song to it.
That's amazing.
And so you can play it, and you play it with your kids, and then as you're talking, as you're reading, images and thoughts of your own pieces start to come up, and that makes it rich for when you're talking and you're reading it to your
When
children.
did you decide that you would have an album that was going to go along with the book?
So all of my books have albums to it.
Okay.
All of them have
So the
albums to it.
children, okay.
So one of the things that I want people to do is I want people to find a way into what I'm trying to say any way that they can. So whether it's art, whether it's books, whether it's music, whatever it is, I'm writing a screenplay right now. I'm writing a play right now. So what I'm trying to do, sis, is create kind of this network of art and books and talks and everything.
Right.
So when our people start to begin to say, okay, maybe I need to address these particular pieces, that my work is something that they can just almost like lay with and be with and play with, and in whatever way that they need to.
And, we talk about this book becoming available in September, and then I made a little joke about Florida, but that's real.
No, that's real.
So talk to me about what your thoughts are with these books being banned now and the attack on history and facts.
That's exactly right. So I will tell you, so I always think whenever I'm writing, I'm always thinking in kind of like a fugitive way. Like I'm always thinking like Harriet Tubman. We knew, our people knew, that if we were out there telling everybody that we were trying to read, that we would die, right? That we would be murdered. To read, to learn, right? And so what we had to do is we had to develop this kind of fugitive ethos, this fugitive philosophy, right? So you shut up. I'm gonna tell you what this is. Don't you go back there, right? And so one of the things that I had thought about this book is that in our community, we have LGBTQIA plus people in our community. And one of the things that would make me happy is if I started to see on the internet drag queens and trans people that look like us reading to kids that they love and reading to kids that are important to them. Because if we're going to change what's happening for us and our people, it's not going to be because we ask for permission. It's going to be because we do it. Right, and we don't, and we go to the cracks, and we accentuate the cracks so something else new can emerge. That's the only way we can do it. So, for me, places like Florida, places like Texas, places like America, those places are ripe for possibility for our people. And I'm trying to write things and do things that when our people come to a place to where they say, yeah, I want to do something else, that I have stuff that they can actually utilize. So I actually just launched a thing online called Black Octopus Society.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah,
we have that right here. Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
coming soon.
Yeah. It's there now. It's
okay.
up. It's just launched on Monday, and so that's a place where I'm going to be doing a lot of live stuff. I'm going to be doing workshops. I'm going to be doing things like. I have a platform where people who want to know about racialized trauma and want to do it in community, that they can do it. It's a subscriber platform, and that just launched. And so like I said, I'm trying all of these different types. So it's blackoctopussociety.com.
What do you think about engaging with people who are opposite of how you think, like say Donald Trump or, we see people saying you got to have these conversations with people. What are your thoughts about that?
Okay, can I be?
Yeah, I want you to be honest.
Okay. The black woman's body this country has always had unfettered access to every idea, every orifice, every understanding of the black woman's body. Like, it is relatively new, sibling, that me and you could be sitting here talking the way that we're talking and be somewhat sure that there's not a lynch party outside waiting for us. That's a new occurrence, right? And so black bodies have been conditioned to believe that we are to be of service to white bodies. We need to make them comfortable. We need to calm them down. We need to make sure that they don't get too.
We have to forgive.
We have to forgive, right? I'm not in that place. I am in a place where Dr. King, who was a revolutionary at his time, where he said that he is afraid that he has led his people into a burning building. And speaking about America, right? And we override what might be best for us so much that we want to expose ourselves to people who want to murder us, who don't like us, whose philosophy is that we are a different species.
What about if those people are us too? Because there's also black people that's
absolutely. We've drank the water too, right? This is what I'm talking about. Racialized trauma is that some of the people that look like me and you have decided that it's better to be on the side of the oppressor than it is to continue to fight for liberation and freedom.
And I think for some people it's also financial reasons.
But that's
I'm going to get some money from these people because I'm contrarian.
That's right.
That, and I'm on their team.
I'm on their team, but this is why what you do is so important. This is why what I do is so important. This is why us being able to say, look, if it's a choice between reaching out to you, knowing that you don't rock with me, or a choice between cultivating a network with people that could potentially do something to make the changes, I'm putting my efforts into that. Because over here, I've seen my wife, I've seen my daughter, I've seen my uncles, I've seen my grandfather be weathered by interacting with people like you.
Right.
And I am not going to allow that to happen to me.
I also, like I said earlier, I know there's so many things we could be talking about, but Monsters in Love. Now, I saw that you actually reworded some of that book as well. A
lot of it.
So talk to me about when you originally put this book out in 2015 and then reimagining it for 2022 when it came back out.
Well, in 2015, I was a different person. Right, I was a different person as a husband. I was a different person as a parent. I was a different person. I had just gotten back from Afghanistan after 2 years. So I was in Afghanistan from 2011 to 2013. 2015 is when I actually landed. So I came home in 2013, but because of all of the trauma, all of the things that were going on, I didn't actually land till about 2015.
Sheesh.
Yeah, it was a rough go, but I had family. I had my wife, my kids, a community that were really holding me through that whole time. But so when I wrote Monsters in Love, I was also doing my private practice and stuff like that. So I had a particular way of thinking about how to do the work, right? Or when I wrote, actually the first book was, when it originally came out, was called Rock the Boat.
Okay.
And you know how everybody said, "Don't rock the boat."
Right. In relationships, you want to try to not argue, keep it smooth.
You want to appease everybody. You want to find the middle ground. You want to
compromise.
Compromise and stuff like that. And what I had learned and what I had watched both in my own life and my own marriage and in couples is that in actuality, some things need to be ground on. Some things take years before, like you know how people say things like, "Well, we need to agree to disagree." That's cool if you're talking about dinner, but you can't agree to disagree about whether or not you want to have a baby.
Right.
You can't agree to disagree about if you're spending up all the money.
You'd be like, well, when I get pregnant, he'll change his mind.
Yeah. No, there ain't no agree to disagree about the important things in life. The reason why there's such why there's such pressure in those types of things is because that pressure is designed to make you grow up. Mm-hmm. Now, you may grow up with that person or you may grow up away from that person. But the pressure, relationships are people growing machines. And so in 2015, I had a particular understanding of that. When I rewrote it, I had over years begun to kind of work with things in terms of my own maturity, work with things in terms of my understanding about race, work with things in terms of my understanding about sex and sexuality, work with my own homophobia, work with my own trans pieces, because I have a lot of the couples, if you notice in the book, or once you read the book, there's a lot of couples in there in which you can't, I purposely wanted you to not be able to tell whether or not it was a heterosexual couple or a trans couple or a homosexual couple, because I wanted you to get to the conundrums that happen in any relationship when you're trying to deal with another human being. So the difference in 2015 and Monsters in Love Now was that there's so much more that I've learned about how to work with couples, and so much more that I've learned as a husband and as a partner.
You know, I'm glad that you said that, because sometimes people will look at somebody like you and the books that you've written and think that, okay, he's just, you know, and we're all works in progress.
That's all of us.
Yeah, so just because you're an expert in a, clinical social worker, like an expert in a field, that doesn't mean you're not still learning and growing and changing and developing.
Always. And that's why I say it's people growing, right? Like we try and find ways around stuff that ain't supposed to be found ways around. Mm-hmm. You're supposed to go through it, and you're supposed to go through it with other people.
Right.
And all of the little tricks and finding the secret and getting the tip and stuff like that, usually that works for the lower level things. But when you're talking about money, sex, kids, and in-laws, when you're talking about those things,
right.
It's very hard. When you're talking about, I want to spend more time with you, and your partner saying, well, I got to hustle.
Right, I have to work. How you think we got this house?
How you think we got
over your head?
Exactly right. These are the things that are not supposed to be acquiesced. You're supposed to grind on that with each other and then see if you can develop the conditioning and tempering to actually want and reach for more.
Right. You talk about emotional stalemates.
Yeah.
And that can happen. And I always do feel like the best relationships are people who are coming into a situation as an individual that is complete in themselves. Like, you know how some people will be like, that's my better half. Or no. We kind of come together and that's how we do things, and I rely on him. And you should be able to do at times.
That's right.
But the best thing is when we're both wholes.
That's right.
And everybody's, it's not half and half or 70 and 30.
That's right.
We're both 100 and 100.
That's right.
Or 98 and 9, just depending on where you are at that time. But
most of us aren't 98.
Yeah.
Most of us, most of us, like the idea that this is my better half and the two shall become one and all that different type of stuff is part of what gets us in trouble. Mm-hmm. Is because we expect our partners to almost be our surrogate parents. One of the things I learned by working with couples is that most of us go into significant relationships at the same level that our parents were able to reach.
Okay.
So
I'm scared.
I know, but we should be, right? Because what it does is it straightens us and makes us go, okay, there are some pieces here that I haven't interrogated because my mama's daddy's never interrogated.
Right.
So now it just looks like how we do stuff, right? And so relationships. So I'll give you another one. So do you remember, like, when you get into a relationship with somebody, there are times where you have been in a relationship and you go, man, I'm coming into this relationship. I got my feet underneath me. I'm good. I'm 98%.
Yeah.
Right? And then I got another person that's 98%, right? We doing good as long as he's at his apartment and I'm at my apartment.
We got our space.
We got our space. We good. And then you get the bright idea to move in with each other.
Ooh. Somebody told me a long time ago that ended he was like, whatever you do, things were great until I decided to move in with
That's
my,
right.
yeah.
That's the people growing machine piece, is that when you're out here and you're just doing your own thing, you have infinite choices. But the moment I say I choose you, my choices become limited.
Mm-hmm.
And when our choices become limited, we get right up against our adult development. Just saying I choose you, just saying me, nothing's going wrong. Just saying let's get an apartment together.
Ooh.
Just that makes it so you're up against your own development.
And then those hard conversations
That's
about
exactly right.
finances
That's
too,
right.
because that does come up. Because now we got to know what's your credit score. But some people will tell you those are things you need to ask super early on, even before you commit to somebody.
And what I would tell you is, even if you ask it, you still gonna have to deal with this.
Right.
Even if you ask all of those questions, even if they say, "Baby, I'm a 820. My credit score is at 825."
Okay.
Right.
That's amazing. Right. I'll be like, where did we sign? No,
and what I'm gonna say is that there is somebody in the relationship that is more of a high desire person for certain. In all relationships, there's a person that's a high desire for something and a low desire for something. There's a person that's higher desire for sex and lower desire for sex. There's a person that has a higher desire to spend money, lower desire. There's a person that has
I know which one I am.
You see what I mean? But that itself is going to create a conundrum in the relationship.
Because it's also, do we keep the same bank account? It is Financial Literacy Month.
That's right.
I'm a fan of, let's put for the bills and everything one account, and then we have our separate accounts for other things that we want to take care of.
That's right.
Something else, I'm glad you're here today, and I wanted to bring this up. I wanted to talk about Angel Reese. Right, and what Emmanuel Acho had to say about her. But, basically, she's amazing as an athlete. She's decided she's going to go into the WNBA. But she did, after the Elite Eight loss, she got a lot of people weighing in on her becoming emotional. And Emmanuel Acho said, you can't act like the big bad wolf and then cry like Courage the Cowardly Dog. And so people had a lot of things to say about that. And she talked about all the vicious online abuse that she's been getting as an athlete. She's competitive. She plays the sport amazing. I want to know what your thoughts are on the criticism that she's been getting, and just even her because I think everybody's got a lot of eyes now on women's basketball, which is a great positive thing. But women do end up getting judged way differently than men do, especially when it comes to them being competitive.
Yeah. So I just got back from Ghana a couple months ago, and I took before I went, I took some dirt from both my grandmother's graves and did a ceremony, what they call a welcoming ceremony over there, where it's basically the returning people. We go over there and then we can bring pieces of people who couldn't make it, ancestors. And one of the things that came to me very clearly was this idea that the hardness that it took for our people to survive this craziness is no longer useful. Actually, where all the strength is right now is in us cultivating more softness with each other.
Right.
And more softness in ourselves, and more softness in the ways that we move. And so to look at this, we talk about the adultification of black women in particular, to look at this beautiful black woman who is a top athlete in college, has a very bright future, and to compare her to a cowardly dog because she is expression emotion is the idea around hardness. Black women aren't supposed to have a whole breadth of emotional content. Like she's not supposed to cry. She's always supposed to be hard. She's always supposed to be the big bad wolf, right? And what I want to say is that the more of us that can see that and say, no, sis, cry. Do what you express the full emotions of human beings, right? And anybody that whether they look like us or not, anybody that comes at you, I want you to know we love you. as a community. We love what you're doing. We love how you get down. Make your mistakes.
We love how everybody is tuned in because of you, the greatest numbers ever. And she works hard. Like they said, a lot of her teammates and people who also play have come to her defense. Like she's always at practice. She works really hard.
And even
her saying that, like, being over sexualized.
Right.
And she was, and I saw somebody in the comments say, well, sis, you did a, swimsuit shoot or whatever. So what do you expect? I did not correlate those two things at all.
At all.
A swimsuit does not mean that it's time that you're giving permission to sexualize a person.
And even if it did, what business is that of probably a man who said that? The idea. This is what I'm saying, that we do not, as black bodies and as black women in particular, black women do not need permission any longer. Stop looking and stop asking for permission. This structure only has value to us in the way, only sees us as valuable in the ways that they can use us to produce something. And what I want to say is to Sister Reese is that you are much more valuable than that basketball. You are much more valuable than what these writers are saying. And I want you to hear us as loud as the critics say, I love you. I love you for you. I love you because you're a beautiful black woman. You are doing things. And even if you weren't doing things right now, I still love you. We are so hard on black women. That and this is what I mean, that we have to start to reclaim the softer pieces of ourselves. That is actually the future. The future for us right now is reclaiming the softness, not the hardness, not trying to be like men, not trying to be like, and when I say trying to be like men, I'm talking
the
stereotype listen, more and more black men right now are unaliving themselves. Right?
Wait, I thought you were saying something else. Yeah. No, that's awful.
But that's because of we can no longer deal with this hardness as the only way of expressing ourselves as
because
human
sometimes
beings.
When men express themselves or they cry, they get told that they're being soft. They get told they're sassy.
That's
been a big conversation.
Right. Pause.
Like, stop being sassy.
All that different type of stuff. And it's to control not just black men, but control the expression of what it means to be a man.
Yeah.
Right? So.
All right. Well, listen, I know we could go on and on. And I know you'll be back because the book comes out in September.
It comes out
the children's book, The Stories from My Grandmother's Hands.
That's right.
Also, the album that's coming along with it. And people can get the vinyl.
That's exactly right. They can get the vinyl on my website at resmaa.com or go to blackoctopussociety.com.
I know you're going to be doing some amazing things, too, for the launch of the book.
Oh, yeah. Well, one amazing thing, I'm going to come back here.
Okay.
I'm going to do it.
All right, good. Because I know there's going to be so many things happening in this world for us to catch up on.
Oh, yeah.
Because you have great commentary just even on current events for people to be able to understand and relate the stories from your books and the things that you're telling us to what's happening in the world. So I appreciate you for that.
Thank you, Seale.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Resmaa Menakem. And you can also get The Quaking of America. You can get My Grandmother's Hands. And you can also get the book that I'm going to be picking up next because I want to make sure that I read this as well. So Monsters in Love.
That's it.
All right. It's way up.